Okay, let's try the traditional sound check at this point. Hopefully you can hear me. Everything looks okay at my end. Hopefully you can see me as well. If you can, if you could just pop a comment in the live chat for me, then I'll know we're good to go at past, which is in 7 minutes. Well, 7 minutes. See you then. Hello everyone, welcome to In Studio Live, the 94th edition, and welcome to the show. I've got a special one for you tonight. We are going to look at 5 different things which will guaranteed improve your photography. I asked the question during the week. I had some interesting replies to that and some interesting comments. Well, let's go through and see the 5. I'd already chosen these 5 before I asked the question. And I want you to be aware that I wasn't just nicking your ideas, folks. My way of approaching it is slightly different to the answers I've got, but hopefully you'll find it interesting. Now, one thing I need to say, and I want you to keep a really close eye on the stream tonight, I've changed one of the streaming settings, which means that in the past you were about 30 seconds behind me, which meant if there was any interaction going on in the live chat, if I responded to something that was typed there, you wouldn't get to hear it for 30 seconds later. So it all meant that everything felt out of phase. Well, I've changed the settings, and now there should only be about 10 seconds difference between live and you hearing it, which means any interaction on the live chat should be a little bit more meaningful, hopefully. However, there is a potential downside to that, and that might mean buffering. So if you do see any buffering this evening, then do please point it out as soon as you can. I don't think I can change the setting on the fly, but if you let me know, at least I'll know next week not to use the settings that I've used and tried this week. Anyway, let's get going, and let's just talk about what's on the show tonight. When I press all the right buttons. Always works better if you press the right buttons. As I said, tonight is all about 5 things which will improve your photography, guaranteed. No question about it. I know this because I've done all 5 of them myself, and I know it has worked on this. I've got my usual image feedback sections in there, and at the end I'll be discussing our image of the week. So whose image is it going to be this week? Stay tuned to the very end to find out. And if you are watching, particularly if you're new to the show, please say hi in the live chat. We appear to have got 13 people watching at the moment. I've greeted most people who've said hi, except Richard. Hello, Richard. Good to have you with us. Anybody else? You haven't said hi yet, so I can't say hi back. Right, okay. It is interactive. It is like that. That's why I've been changing the settings. I want this to be a two-way conversation with you, so that I'm not just here in an empty room shouting at a camera or talking to a camera by myself. So do put your comments in the live chat as we go through. Ask questions there as well. Now, how to improve your photography? 5 things. I'm trying to watch my own image down here and I'm moving the hand the wrong way. No, 5 things to improve your photography. I'm going to scatter them throughout the live stream. So they're not all in one block, they're just going to come at different points. We all want to improve, don't we? It doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or an expert on that. We all want to get better with our photography. So these are things which will help you go to the next level, whatever level you're currently at. So they are really useful techniques, and you might apply them slightly differently at different levels on there. Oh, we've just got Tony Warren back here. I think I said hi to S Numbers earlier. Yes, I did. So hi again anyway, but great to have you with us. It doesn't matter where you're at. You might apply the techniques differently at different levels, but the techniques will work wherever you're at. So 5 things that are proven to help you improve your photography. The first one is a controversial one, but it is very, very true. And number 1 is learn post-production. Right, okay, I'm seeing a buffering signal on my screen. And right, let's just have a look. Have I lost frames? Frames missed, yeah, 13 frames. Oh, got Peter Ashford joining us anyway as well. So, right, okay, I'm going to assume that it's all still working, although my display does look a little bit weird at the moment on here. But let's carry on anyway, and hope my change of settings isn't causing problems tonight. If it does, I will change them for next week. Right, learn post-production, my first point. It is controversial because there are a lot of people who think you should get it right in camera. But this is not about the fix it in post attitude. It's about what you do with your images and how you make them work on there. And let's face it, post-production's always been a part of photography. It's been a part. Think of Ansel Adams. He would spend a lot of time out in the field photographing his landscapes or whatever, but he'd spend an equal, if not greater time in his darkroom doing the post-processing, working out exactly how he wants to print those images up. So it's always been there. You could argue there is only one area of film photography where there is no post-production really involved in your photography, and that is slide photography, because basically what you capture in camera is what you get on the slide. But for everything else, for prints, there is that side to it. So it's not something new. And as I say, Ansel Adams on there. And let me just give you an example from my own work. This was a client shoot I did just over a week ago, actually, for a local undertakers for an advertising billboard. And this image required quite a bit of post-production work on it to actually make it work at the level where I could put it on the billboard. And that what we've got isn't entirely possible in camera. I had to work on post-production. So yes, I had my undertaker and I had the horse-drawn hearse in the graveyard, and they were arranged exactly as you see them in that image. So that is real, except a couple of things had to be changed. The horses were very restless, and I was shooting at a very low shutter speed because I needed to use a flash, and I needed to do various other things with it, and I was getting a lot of blur on the horses. But I covered myself earlier by taking some faster shots just of the horses, so I used that for the horses. The image of the undertaker, I got various shots of her in that position with different, well, the horses in different positions, but she didn't like a lot of the shots I got. There was this one particular one that she did like, so that was the one I used, but it wasn't the one where the horses were as they are on there. So I had to composite those together, the two different versions. And it was a dull, overcast day, and you can imagine what the sky would be like. It was dark. It was featureless. It was a dull day, but it was featureless. And so we got this bright, just plain white sky, more or less plain white sky there. And that was drawing the eye upwards. And you know how many times I've spoken about drawing the eye. So I needed to replace the sky. Photoshop comes to the rescue with the replace sky option in there. So I've got effectively three elements in there that I've had to put together. So yes, it's composited, but everything was there. There was a sky there, it just wasn't as nice as that. The undertaker was there, so the lighting matches and all that, but it had to be put together in post-production. Now that's a bit more of an extreme example, but even just things like raising the shadows, those sort of techniques will help improve your images. So learn appropriate techniques for post-production. Now, the other thing to say about this, as you just see on the slide, was the depth of field problem. The ones I had with them both together, The horses were just slightly blurred because of the depth of field. So again, had to solve that in post-production. Now, as I said, it has divided the digital age, and one of the things I do find quite interesting, a large number of the advocates who say, oh, it's wrong to do any digital post-production, are the people who actually don't know how to do post-production. And it is important, and it will help your photography, and it will enable you to produce better images. The aim is always get it right in camera, but getting it right in camera doesn't necessarily mean that the image in camera is the perfect or final image. Going back to that shoot I did in the graveyard for my client, that is my in-camera image for one of the shots, and it is right in camera. That is absolutely correct in camera, except it's a rubbish image. And it was shot like that deliberately, but it's a rubbish image. No, it was shot like that because I needed to preserve the details in the sky. It was a horrible dull sky, as you can see, but if I'd let that blow out to pure white, I would never have been able to do anything with it. Instead, we talked about the technique a few weeks ago about exposing to the right. I made sure that that sky was right up against the histogram so that none of it was blown out, which meant in post-production, I could do that with it. Yes, I've cropped it, but I've now got interesting detail in the sky. But that is the same shot, it's just I've done the post-production step. Had I got it right in camera? Yes, I got it right in camera for what I knew I was going to be doing with it. Just one other aside, one little tip with that type of thing though. Whilst I knew that was the shot I would almost certainly use, what I did, I covered myself. I actually bracketed the whole thing from 3 stops under to about 2 stops over, so that I knew at least one of those would have the right detail. That wasn't, the version you can see there isn't an HDR shot, that was just post-production work on it. I have done an HDR version of the various shots, and that also works, so I had options on there. But getting it right in camera isn't necessarily getting the perfect image in camera, it's getting what you need to be able to produce the final image that you want. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't understand post-production techniques. So let's just move on a little bit with this. Some of you may think, I don't know where to begin with post-production. I know at least one of the people watching tonight is actually really struggling with their editing software, and I'm going to be meeting that person this week, and I'll spend some time with him to help him through on that. But don't be put off by post-production, and don't try to learn everything in one go. Just try and master 1 or 2 techniques at a time. And I'm just going to give a sort of list of the sort of techniques that you might want to look at, depending on where you are with your photography. If you consider yourself a relative beginner on post-production, by beginner, intermediate and advanced, I'm talking more about your knowledge of post-production rather than your knowledge of photography. But the beginner techniques, learn simple things like cropping, because you've seen it when I've done feedback, it can make a huge difference to an image. Rotation, for goodness sake, if you've got a wonky horizon, please rotate it. I don't know whether it's OCD or something, but I look at an image where there's a wonky horizon, I go, oh, why didn't you change it? It's horrible on there. So just learn that cropping to get your horizon straight where it should be. I'm fine with a deliberate tilt, but that just 1 degree off or whatever. Horrible. Learn to bring out the detail in shadows. that's more or less what I was doing with that image that I've just shown you. A little bit more to it than that. I used some more advanced techniques instead of just raising the shadows slider. There's a few other techniques you can do with that to be able to do it. Learn how to adjust the white balance so that sunsets, for example, you can improve those with just a change of the white balance on there. And spot removal. We all get dust spots on our sensor from time to time. Learn how to get rid of them. And those, 5 different techniques, if you're beginning, if you learn those, that will make an improvement for your photography and your final images. Well, if you're at intermediate level, what should you be looking at learning in post-production? Well, sharpening. We looked at that last week, why we need it, and we looked at some of the more advanced techniques on there, particularly the Photoshop ones. But the more intermediate techniques were the Lightroom versions on there. And I'll be honest, that's the technique I use most of the time. Learn noise reduction as well, particularly if you are in the phase of lightening shadows and things like that. You're going to introduce noise, and learning how to do sensitive noise reduction, as opposed to you don't make everything looking like plastic, that's a good intermediate skill to get. Correcting the verticals. It's easy in Lightroom, but if you don't use Lightroom, other tools have got that capability, and there are different techniques for it. I was doing it in Photoshop before Lightroom even came out. Learn curves adjustment for being able to add contrast and to be able to adjust your image that way, and to be able to target different tones within the image. And learn black and white conversions. Look back through the archive of these shows. I've got a couple on black and white conversion on there, and that will help you with that. Well, if you are a bit more advanced on this, what sort of things should you be looking at for that? Well, learn dodge and burn and those sort of techniques, particularly in Photoshop, because you actually don't want to be doing, well, I say you don't want to be doing it with the dodge and burn tool, but I find it often easier with other versions of it, other techniques, other ways of doing it on there. I find it much more subtle and easier to undo and get it right on there. I think I have covered it, but it might be worth looking at that again. Skin softening. If you're a portrait photographer, learn how to do that skin softening, but not at the level where you end up with models that look like Barbie dolls with plastic skin. Learn how to do it sensitively. That frequency separation we talked about last week, you can use that for skin softening. Learn HDR techniques, so that if you have got that big range of brightnesses, how you can still produce an image with that. And masking, how to cut out images, particularly if you've got a subject with hair. How are you going to separate them from the background? And how much detail do you need on there to be able to do it? For mine, I had to mask out the subject of The Undertaker to get it to work. Did I need to go to the level of hair reduction, individual hairs? No, I didn't. Not for that one, because of the background I was putting her on with it. And then the most advanced one is perhaps compositing, and learn how to do that, how to put together different bits from different images and do it properly. It's not just a case of sticking somebody in front of something. You've got to think about matching the light on there, and even adjusting the light and the colour of the light on the different parts of it. And that's perhaps a skill I want to try and learn. I'm not very good at compositing. I can do bits, as you saw with that Undertaker shot, but to do some of the more advanced ones, that's probably where I'm at. So we all want to advance our skills or improve our skills, and learning post-production will help you. So that was my number 1 on the list. At this point, I'm going to have a look at what's going on in chat. We've got some interesting points in here. Gary has said that he's got the new version of Lightroom today with the new selection options. Just starting to learn how to use it. Yeah, That is really powerful, and also it's a major step to the side with how you think about your post-processing in Lightroom. I've been playing with it on and off for a few months because I'm one of the beta testers, and I've had some fun with it. I've had some good successes with it, but it doesn't have to take longer, even just to do simple adjustments on there. And I'm hoping that's something they're going to sort out with it. Richard said he's downloaded it. Be interesting to see how you get on with it, Richard, because I know you do a fair bit with your. I would say you're intermediate to advanced with your Lightroom stuff, so it'd be interesting to see how you get on. And also, yeah, you're saying about the new DxO noise reduction. Yeah, the DxO stuff. I have the product before it was DxO with there, and it's Color Effects Pro, and that sort of stuff. Went through several owners actually. I think Google had it for a while, so I've got it from those days, and it's I'm sort of on the lookout for a good deal with it. I haven't yet taken the plunge to buy the whole lot. I probably need to have a play with it for 30 days myself, but I'll be interested to see what you think. But the original, I got a deal about 90 quid for the whole set, the black and white color effects, the noise reduction, the whole lot. So I have got something, but the older version. Right, I've just got the question from Terry. What have you done to upset Adobe? Do I really need to tell you, Terry? No. Right, I didn't know. I actually didn't know it had been released on there, because I think the last update I got was that I could download an updated version of the beta. Now, if you are struggling to find it, a couple of things to do. Go into the Creative Cloud app and make sure that's up to date, and also is sign out and then sign back into it, and that will often bring it back up to the front and say, oh, there's an update here. The other one you can try, and it may show up or may not show up, is if you go into Lightroom and select check for updates off the help menu. I'll have a look at that later on there. So you could do it like that. Actually, talking of Lightroom, I'm due to go in there anyway, because I'm going to do the feedback at this point. Feedback on the images which were emailed to me this week. And we've got 16 viewers. I've just noticed our numbers have gone up. So welcome to people who are joining us, perhaps for the first time. If this is your first time, please do say hello in the live chat so that I can say hi back on there. But right, let's head over into Lightroom and look at the images which were sent via email this week. And just for the sake of any newbies, if you send me images by email at feedback@ians-studio.co.uk, it was just on the screen. It will be on the screen again later, and it's probably down below in the show notes. I do those first, and I can give better feedback on them, and I spend more time on them. The ones I get from my Facebook group, talk about that later, those I don't spend quite as much time on. So what have we had this week on email? Well, we've had images from Gary, which are the Ely stained glass ones. Now, I'm really interested to have a look at the metadata on this. So 40th of a second, ISO 800. Those are all looking quite good. Gone from f5.6 to f11. Now, that's interesting. I'm just going to have a look at this. This is the f5.6. That's looking pretty sharp to me. The F11 also looking pretty sharp on there. I don't know why you would have changed. Ah, now I'm seeing. Right, with the tilt, that's less sharp up at the top on the 5.6 version there. They're not too bad at the bottom. Yeah, that's possibly why better with F11 on there. Now that F11 one, oops, let's just looking at that. Not as much as a tilt on it. I think this first one would have benefited more from F11 than this one, because it's less depth of field required on it. I like the tilts with these. I think the exposure is really good. Don't know how much you've had to do in post-production on them, but there's no blowouts on there at all with it. And I think those work really well. I think that choice of tilting the angle has worked really well. Now, there's not much else I can really say on those in terms of feedback for you, Gary, because they're just great shots, well executed. Let me turn my attention now to this pair of images that Richard has supplied. Now he's given me the JPEGs and the original. So let's look at his edit first on here. Love the light on this, how it's illuminating her face with there. I can see that the fire is burned out, but it doesn't matter on it at all. Lovely uncluttered background, so she stands out from it with there. Let's just have a look at that in the original raw file, because I just want to show what has been done on here. Now, here is one thing that Richard's done. He's done a crop, quite rightly, and I think he's done it, he might have done it to there, or he might, if he's been sneaky, done it to there and then done spot removal to sort that out on there. Now, here, I also think he's done that just to try and bring back and save a little bit of the highlights in there, but you don't need to do much on that. And he's clearly brought up the tones on the subject. Now, here's the trick. I don't know whether this is how you did it, Richard, but I would actually darken the image and then use K, the adjustment brush, and with a low flow and a high exposure. Actually, I'm just going to reset everything because I don't know what else I've got set on there. A high exposure. I would then start to just bring her back that way. Now, why would I do it that way? Because I want a dark background on there. And I can do it this way because I'm only bringing back what we've removed elsewhere. And if I was spending a bit more time on it, then that's the sort of way I would do it. And I would just sort of bring it back this sort of way, effectively dodge and burn it. Now, I would spend more time on this in practice. I'll just bring up some shadows a little bit with it as well to create that kind of effect. Now, how did that look compared to Richard's edit? How far off am I? Yeah, I mean, he's increased the saturation on that because I can see more colour in the background. Go back. Oh, not that one. Oh, come on, Ian. Right, that's the right button, but I want the edited version on there. So I think he's warmed it up a little bit in there like that to give it that more fiery look to it. And it's worked really well. I'd probably just tighten the crop up a little bit at the top there. Now I know that Richard's tightened it at the bottom as well. I think he's come up to about here on it. and I think that was a bit tight. I like to see that little bit more of the outfit on there. So I do it something like that, and I do a little bit more work to make sure that she stands out a little bit better from the background. But it's worth keeping that background dark on there. So looking at the other one, again, I will look at Richard's edit first, which is this JPEG. The fire breather. Love the crop on this, and I love this arc over the top, this framing. Just watch the blowout here. I think you probably brought it down a little bit too much, so I'm just going to go over to the raw file. Yeah, you brought it down a little bit in post-production. In camera, I mean, with the bias minus 2/3 on that, which I can understand. 400th of a second, yeah, it needs to be fast. f2.8, yeah, absolutely. ISO 1600, absolutely fine. So let's have a look. Yeah, it's blown out. Now I'm just going to take that off, and we could do trying to get some detail in there. Let's see if we can just bring it back enough. Now I bring it back about that much. I think you've gone back to there because you could start to see it going a little bit grey on the thing. Actually, if I go in on there, you can see a little bit better. I think you've gone down to something like that with it, whereas you just want to bring it in enough so that we just get this shape in here with it without it going too grey. In fact, I think I've probably even gone too far with that. It's a good crop that you've done over here on there, and again, just watch the crowd. Try and keep those dark. The other way to do that is if I go. Hang on. Wrong one. No, that is the, yep, that's the raw file. The other way to do it is once you're happy with the exposure of your subject, you can do it the other way around. If I do that adjustment brush, this time go negative on there and a large, just bring the flow up a little bit. Oh, excuse me, let me just have a slurp of my tea. Right, yeah, the other way I can do it is I can darken it. Hopefully you can just see that darkening just a little bit and just darken the crowd down. Just a little something like that, just so that they're not quite so obvious in the frame on there. So I would try something along those lines with it, but I love the shot. And it's so fortunate to have been able to photograph something like this. So there you go. That's the feedback on there. Let me head back to my PowerPoints. Oh, excuse me. Right. Let's see. On here, we've got a few comments in the chat. Richard is saying his Lightroom won't open until he's done the update, so he's updating. It shouldn't force you to do an update on that. Gary's liking the fire performance. Yeah, they are excellent. And that Richard's still got more images to go through. Look forward to seeing them when you do. Right, okay. So now back on with our 5 tips. Our next set. So this time, tip number 2, or the second thing, is set a goal to focus your activities on. Goals give you something to aim towards. There's an old saying: if you don't plan, oh, I can't remember it. Forget that. There's an old saying about planning to to succeed. I can't remember the exact quote I was going to give. But goals do help you achieve more. If you've got something to work towards on there. And if you're in business at all, then you will be familiar with the idea of goal setting. Your yearly appraisal probably has you setting a goal, and you'll use something which they use the term SMART. I don't know whether they use it, still use it, but SMART used to say specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time specific. Now, if you apply that to your photography, find a particular goal, something that you can work towards. That will give you something to aim at, and make what these should be is it should be a very specific thing. I'll give you some examples later. You need to know whether you've achieved it or not at the end of the time scale. So you need to be able to measure it, and it should be realistic and achievable. In other words, it's got to be something that is possible, and it's got to be something to push you as well. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about goal setting on here. If you want to know more, I have actually got a whole live stream about it. It's one from December last year. I'll bring it up on the screen in a moment, the number of it. But what sort of goals could a photographer set which will help? Well, you've got things like 365 challenges. What's a 365 challenge? It's make a photo every day and post it online or on Facebook or something like that. You don't have to wait till January the 1st to start it. You can start it any time. Now, it might be a bit much for you. I have done a 365 challenge. It's hard work. The next one might be a weekly challenge. And this one's perhaps a really good one for people watching this. Give yourself a challenge of creating one new photo each week and loading it up to my Facebook group or emailing it to me for feedback on the show. Maybe that's a bit much for you. Why not over the next... Actually, you need to start now thinking about it. Commit to shoot a calendar for 2023 with a photograph from each month. Now, realistically, you need to get the November one done, started now, or in November. Shoot something in November for that calendar, then December, all the way through to October. So you get one per month, one shot. Maybe you're a landscape photographer, you can document the change of the seasons that way. And then produce the calendar at the end of it. You've got a specific goal, something you're working towards, something to focus your attention on, no pun intended. How about applying for a distinction? I've done the RPS, ARPS. One day I ought to have a go at the FRPS on there, the fellowship. But that has a particular target, something you can focus your attention on, something to work towards. And if you're doing that, you will improve with your photography because you have to, because you know I've got to achieve something on this day, this week, this month, or by this deadline, and you'll improve. So that's tip number 2, set yourself a goal. Want to know more about goal setting? Have a look at this live stream, number 43 from the 27th of December last year. Okay, at this point, let me talk about the sponsorship of this live stream, which will come no surprise to the regular viewers. It's sponsored by you. Thank you to everyone who's bought me a cuppa. The link is down below. It's really helpful having those cuppas purchased for me. It encourages me to keep going with this, and it helps cover some of the costs in doing these live streams, because I've had to invest in infrastructure to do it, and bits of technology like what you can't see, the little box that controls everything, and yeah, you know the sort of thing. And as one way of saying thank you is I acknowledge somebody who's bought me a cuppa each week. This week, I want to say thanks to Tim Waters. So cheers, Tim. Lovely cuppa. Oh, and I've just spotted something in the chat. Richard Lovelock has set the goal to make a calendar. Right, that's public now. It's on YouTube. You're going to do it, Richard. And so we'll hold you to it. So end of November, I want to know that you've done your November shot on that. And then when you get these calendars done, just remember who gave you the goal on it. Just remember that. Right, okay, let's move on. Okay, so thank you, Tim, for the cuppa. And if you are new here, please subscribe, like and share. Thank you to everyone who shares details of the live stream. I really appreciate it. And make sure you hit that little bell icon when you do subscribe on there. Talking about likes, we've only got 5 likes and 14 people watching. 13 people watching. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Right, go and hit the like button, folks, and sign up for my newsletter. If you aren't a member of my Facebook group, the link to it is down below, and that's where we carry on the conversation during the week. So, thank you for that. Right, okay, tip number 3, the third thing which will improve your photography. Limit your options. This is all about doing less to do more. Do less to improve. Concentrate on just one thing at a time. If you've got your attention across multiple things, you tend not to learn anything. Limit yourself. And the way I suggest doing this is if you go out for a shoot and put a big restriction on yourself when you do it. So for example, decide that you're going to go out and do, maybe it's a location that you're going to, and you normally shoot in aperture priority mode, which is what I normally do. And make the decision for this entire visit, I'm only going to use manual mode. I did that in Quebec when I was there. It's hard work actually, but I did it. Maybe you want to just restrict yourself to one lens. I've done that when I can't remember which place it was I went to. It was somewhere I'd been before. It might have been Amsterdam or Lisbon, somewhere like that. And I decided I would go out with just one lens. And it was my mega wide angle lens at that. So it was my 12 to 24 millimeter lens. And I restricted myself to that. And it really, these sort of things help you really think about a particular aspect of photography, about how you can be creative with that one lens, and you start to see options. And having done that, having gone out with just that one lens, what I found was I looked at the scene afterwards and I thought, yes, I know that that will work with a wide angle lens, because there was a day when I had no choice but to use a wide angle lens, and I had to make it work. And I learned how to make that wide angle lens give me really interesting photos, and how to get the best out of that one bit of kit. Another one that I've used, and I did when I was learning photography, or sort of consolidating all my skills before I went full time. And it was for a period of about 3 or 4 months. Whenever I went out shooting, I used my tripod. Okay, there were times when I couldn't set it up, but whenever I could, I would shoot with the tripod rather than handheld. Not because I needed to, but because that slows you down. It makes you think about the composition that you're creating. And if you put your camera on tripod, you tend to look at the image in a lot more detail than you do when you just bring the camera up, click, bring the camera down. So it's a really good trick. Go out for a day. If you're doing some city photography, just challenge yourself to take your tripod with you and just to use that throughout the day for every shot. And you'll learn so much about composition. You will get better images, and you'll be thinking more about how to compose. You will also be thinking about, do I really want that shot? Is that really going to work? Because I've got to unclip and set up the tripod and put the camera on it and all that. How about doing a 1-20-20 challenge? Now, if you don't know what a 1-20-20 challenge is, it's something I created many years ago, and live stream number 26, I set people the challenge to do that last year. A few people did it and they came back with some really good results. The idea is you've got 2 hours at a location to take just 20 shots. Easy, you might think, but they have to be consecutive frames and every shot needs to be a different subject. You're not allowed to delete any images. So if you get it wrong, it's in there. And again, it really makes you think about your composition. It slows you down. It causes you to think about, right, okay, what settings am I going to use? And the more time you spend doing that with these sort of limited option times, the times when you need to do it under pressure, when you need to shoot quickly, it will become more second nature for you. So limit your options. It really does help you to learn and to help you improve what you're doing with your photography. Right, let's carry on with feedback and look at the images from Facebook. So let me head back over into Lightroom. And there we go, the Facebook ones. Right, so what have we got here? Right, okay, so I'll go straight into the develop module. This is from Sonia, Sonia Ooms. Another one of her underwater macro images. Love the colours on this, very sort of clownfish colours. She did say what the creature was, but I can't remember, and it was too long a name for me to be able to remember. Whoa, what happened there? Oh, I see. I was over one of my settings there, which incidentally, that was interesting because that lightened it up by 1 stop. And I think it needs that, just that little boost on it, Sonia, on there. But before I get in, before I talk any more about your image, actually no, I will talk about your image and then I'll deal with the one other thing that I need to point out for you, Sonia. Yeah, I think it just needs that little exposure. I really like these, and the trouble is I don't know enough to know whether the focus point's right. I think it is on those antennae with it. Personally, I'd like to have seen it on a different background because it's kind of merging in with the background, but hey, these sort of things you don't have much choice over. The other thing you could have done is perhaps darken out this area up here, which I don't think is part of it, and I don't think is helping with the image on there as with that. So I will bring that in just to lose that little bit that's creeping in there, and I'm going to do this with that, and I'm going to make this a little bit easier and quicker for me, and I'm just going to darken that right out on there just so it's not quite as distracting on that. So I would do something like that with it on there, but lovely shot. Moving on, James. Don't know that you're watching, James, but I really like this shot. Somebody cosplaying John Constantine from the DC universe. Standalone character, but also these days in the Legends of Tomorrow series. Nicely done. I know you've deliberately underexposed on there. I don't know that I would bring much more back with it. He is quite a dark, moody character, so it's kind of right on there with it. It's a lovely shot. The background's slightly distracting on there. It's not too bad, but I'd have tried to avoid the door frame there going into the head with it. That's a minor nitpick on there. Great shot. John Barton, love the shot of someone with attitude. I wanted to talk about this one because I know you actually showed it to the person. I've always said if you're doing street photography, it needs to be in compliance with the people who are taking part. What I would do though is this correcting of verticals. So we do it guided, sort that one out there and pick one of those as a vertical, and then constrain the crop. Actually, it often picks the wrong crop when you do this. I would bring it out to something like that there, and we don't need that much at the bottom. So I'd go with something like that on it, John. But nice shot, good black and white conversion on there. Just watch the people over the shoulder with it. A slight step to the left would have hidden him all the way. A step to the right would have revealed him, rather than having half the face covered on there with that. And that's the sort of thing that will come with time, to be able to take in the whole scene and know how to just move very slightly to avoid those. Another one from John, and you had corrected the verticals on this one. Lovely shot, nice black and white conversion, and nice little bit of detail in the sky. I would try and can you get a little bit more in there? Maybe just bring it down slightly like that. Works nicely. Good one, thank you. Paul, love this one. I don't know if you're watching tonight. From Funchal. I like the blue contrasting with the orange light on there. I do wonder whether a tighter crop might work with this. Perhaps something like that with it. I think maybe just a little bit more at the top on there with it. So I don't think we've got much that's been added by the dark at the bottom. So maybe something like that I would go with. But it's a nice image. And I love the areas of the light and dark, the contrast with it on there. And another one from Sonia. Now, the debate on this one, Sonia, was whether it merited a square crop. If it doesn't merit a square crop, then what I would do with this is to bring that side in so that it is deliberately on the 1/3 line and keep that in there. I'm interested to see what it does look like as a 1-to-1 crop on there, which would be something like that. And yeah, I can see it has lost a lot of the snow, so I would say going to that type of crop, I think would improve it. Now, while I remember, Sonia, whilst you were talking about this, we had a little discussion online about Game of Thrones, and I said I was looking forward to the prequel, House of Dragons, and I said I was looking forward to it because it had Matt Smith in it, and you admitted you had to look up who Matt Smith was. What? He's the Doctor. And here, Matt Smith, the Doctor, these all different enemies that he fought as the Doctor. How dare you not know who Matt Smith is? That's disgraceful. Sorry, I am jesting, but that's why I changed the figurines tonight, because of your comments about Matt Smith. Right, moving on. John Barton. Right. Nice shot. I don't know what you were using to take the photograph. I suspect phone. The problem is it's grainy with it. I do like this. One thing I would probably do is I'd bring the black point down maybe a little bit, trying to hide some of that noise that's in there with it, or contrast. I don't want to go too much on there. But if I can just lighten that top section, bring that down, and just bring that up I just want to counteract what I've done to get that being dark on there. So something like that maybe. Love the colours in it, like the fact that this is a silhouette. Strangely, I like the fact that although I know it's a drone, what it looks like is an alien spaceship towards the horizon, and so I really like that idea. I like the fact that it's off to one side, and I like the low horizon with it. So a good shot. I wonder whether just losing a little bit of the darker sky there, where a lot of the grain is, whether something like that would work. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all of those. Yep, so back to my PowerPoints, etc., etc. And Richard Lovelock has said that the creature is a sea slug. Okay, it's a sea slug. Right, on there. So that's the proof. He said it's a sea slug. But back over here. Next tip, fourth tip, get feedback. Now, this is a really, really important one. And it's why I do this every single week on the live stream. I give feedback to people. I believe it's so important on there. Oh, and John has said he's late, sorry. You'll have to go back. I've already covered your images, John. Right. Yeah, the thing about feedback is we get too close to our own images. So it's so important to get constructive feedback. And I'm not talking about fishing for likes or comments which say, oh, great shot. I'm talking about feedback which will tell you what works and what doesn't work in there. We get so close to an image, we remember everything that was outside the image. We remember the circumstances of it, the things that we enjoyed about the day that when we created it. And we forget people don't have that association with our image. So it has to work independently. We have to be objective about it and put ourselves in the position of somebody who doesn't know all that. So that's why I do these things on the live stream and give that level of feedback to help people to be objective. But more than that, I want to try and encourage people to give feedback as well. And actually giving feedback on other people's images is just as valuable, if not more so, than getting feedback on your own images. Because that really helps you learn to be objective, because the things you see in other people's images, you start to then see, and you've commented about it, you start to see them in your own images. So you learn so much by having to think about somebody else's images. It focuses your mind on there. Okay, so some general advice on giving feedback. It needs to be constructive. If something doesn't work, say why it doesn't work and what could be done to solve that problem. Come up with the fixes, ideas for the person. If you can't do that, then make suggestions about maybe alternative ideas with it, alternative viewpoints. Maybe you can crop things in a different way on there. Maybe you can suggest different post-production techniques with it that will help somebody. And that's what it means about being constructive, coming up with ideas that people can actually then put into practice. And I'd encourage you to use my Facebook group, link down below, and look at the images that get posted there and provide feedback on the images that are posted, constructive feedback, and learn that way. So the point of the group isn't just about you posting an image to get feedback, it's for you to learn by giving feedback on the other images that people post. So I really want to encourage you to do that and to make sure you're getting the feedback. And if you want in-depth feedback, email the images to me at feedback@ians-studio.co.uk and they will get done on the first half of the show. So, right, moving on. Member photo of the week. It's not quite the last item this week in the thing. This week's member photo of the week is this one by Paul Evans. I hope you watch this, Paul, and see the feedback I gave on it. I think it's a great shot. on there. The colours work, something a little bit different for the banner this week, and this is how it's going to look. I've had to do it this way because it's a vertical shot, but I've done the crop, as you saw as part of my edit with it, in there. Now, as you know, with the banners, it does tend to take top and bottom off if you're viewing it on the computer. If you're viewing it on the phone, you get the whole thing. So that's why I've left perhaps a little bit more of the dark at the bottom than I would otherwise on there. But that's the photo, and I'll be updating that very shortly. If you want one of your images to be the photo of the week, then don't forget to submit them to the Facebook group during the week, because that's where I'll pick it from. But feel free to email the images to me as well as put them in the Facebook group. And that way I can give you better I'll give you the feedback from the emailed ones, but you're still in with a chance for the cover image on the week. So there we go. That's this week's. So now, that's not my last look. I'll look at that again later. The final tip or final bit of advice, which will encourage you, which will help you improve your photography, and that is simply just get out shooting. Don't just watch videos and live streams like this on how to improve. Do it. Go out and shoot. Now, I know most of you on here are doing that. Most of you who are watching this are actually are actually going out, but there are some photographers who spend their time just watching videos on YouTube and learning from that and don't go out. Sometimes, and I'll be honest, I might be one of those. I watch a lot of stuff, think, oh, I'd love to do that, I'd love to do that, and I actually don't get round to doing it. Largely because I tend to end up focusing on the business related things rather than things I think, oh, that'd be really cool to do. But yeah, get out there and shoot. I used to use the excuse, I spend so much time on a cruise ship, I do all my shooting there. I don't get that chance anymore. But yeah, just get out and shoot. Maybe join a group, go out with some friends, encourage each other to go out. If you live local to somebody who's a regular on the live stream, oh, I have got an error. I don't know whether anybody else can see. I'm just putting a note in here because I don't know what's gone on here. My playback has stopped. I'm just going to carry on. Right, okay, Gary says no error there. See what I've got, if I show, you can see my playback window here is completely vanished. Right, I'm assuming you're all okay. I will carry on then. Sorry about that. Okay, so join the group, or if you know somebody on the who is a regular on the live stream or a member of my Facebook group who's local to you, why not arrange to go out together and shoot and encourage each other to do that. And maybe put going out regularly and shooting once a month as one of your goals. We talked about that earlier with the goals section. And take on a challenge, and that's part of your challenge, just to get out there. Maybe a 1-20-20 challenge would do, or one of my before and after challenges, because these challenges help you to get out there. Now, the 1-20-20 we've talked about, before and after challenge. There's a whole load of videos on the YouTube channel about how to do that before and after challenge. You go somewhere and then you go through various things to do, and then at the end you go back to that first location and do all the photos again on that. So moving along, I've also got coming up a brand new challenge. It's my Advent challenge. It's going to happen in December, assuming I get it all organised in time. And this one is a toughie for you. But it will help you. It will focus your mind. You will be given no, I'll save it till nearer the time to talk about it because I'm already over time. But yeah, just get out shooting. So what about next Sunday? Next Sunday's theme, this is a different one. The importance of failure in photography. Learning to fail at photography and why it's important. And it is important. So more about that next Sunday. All about failure in there. As ever, email your images for feedback to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk or post them in the Facebook group. Don't have to be on the topic of failure. Anything that you want to share in there for feedback. And as I said earlier, I just encourage you to have a go at providing feedback to other people in the group, because that way you will improve on there. So I hope you've all found this helpful tonight, slightly different to other ones where I've scattered the tips, the suggestions throughout the live stream. It's great to have seen so many people in the live chat. Sorry about the error that some of you had, or Loz had, and I had. For him, it was a case of refresh the browser. I don't know if that's going to work for me, but we'll see. On there, hope it works, because otherwise I'll never be able to end the live stream. Yeah, it's trying to connect to it at the moment. Yep, it's there. Right, that was strange. I don't know why it's done that. I may or may not try these settings again next week. I may go back to my old settings because that's the first time I've had that. But thank you all for joining me this week. And as ever, until we meet next week or chat online, keep making great photos, and bye for now. I can't find my outro.